Hello everybody, this is Zateo. I'm going over that replay once again with myself and Caldera. This time I'm going to be focusing on how the commander moves, setting up defenses, and overwhelming your opponents. So let's get started. If you'd like to go over the economy of this particular game, I did a video on that as well, and that economy should apply basically to any game on Red Comets or um, Comet Catcher, the bigger brother of the Red Comets. Um, but yeah, it also gives some, if you're doing wind, it's basically like a very similar thing. It's just you need to add on a lot more winds than solar, generally speaking. And then you also want a storage to mitigate the losses when the wind dips down significantly. But yeah, much more information on that in the other video. Oh yeah, I had to turn off my stream because I was streaming at the time and it was just too much sound. But yeah, I'm gonna speed it up past this early game like economy parts. All right, instructor going out to cap some mexes, protecting it with some blitzes. All right, so it's slowed down. Let's see, let's just set it to 1. All right, so I pushed my commander out going this way. Um, I initially had my first constructor going this way, and I decided to do something cheeky and have, try to set up like a forward position here. Caldera punishes me for expanding a little bit too greedily by having this guy out. I do not the greatest job to defend it, but it is what it is. Just so you know, when you do expand, you want to put down radars periodically so that you can see the area better. So like I have one in my base that should probably be on the hill, ideally, to be able to see around the hill a lot better, because with where it's placed, this entire area is not on the radar. Um, and then I also should have probably had a radar around here, just because the radar ends here and I could have extended it much further to be able to see past this area, to secure this location a little bit easier and see these attacks much easier. So definitely put a lot of radars as you expand out. Same thing with my commander. He should have also put down a radar around here, probably even a little bit closer. Let's see how far out it is. Come on. All right. So yeah, the radar ends here. So like as I push out, I should have put down a radar around here or so. Just FYI. Um, yeah, I end up pointing one further down south, like around this location, I think, or maybe it's around here, where the commander is actually. But the idea is, you want to extend that radar coverage out as you expand so that you can see anything that comes to harass the location and respond properly. If he sends this blitz over, obviously I have my commander, so he's well protected, but you know, you'd want to consider maybe sending some support units to defend this location. Or he could try to push down this way. Same thing, you want some units down here to defend that location. By doing that, you're securing and safely able to expand to these mexes. Um, I do have a unit down here. Caldera slips a blitz by still, so there's still like possibility for things to get through, but it definitely helps protect stuff. Also, while I'm expanding, when I say expanding, I'm grabbing mexes with stuff. I'm throwing down LLTs to defend, my critical areas. If this was just one metal, I would maybe consider skipping the LLT because it's not as big of a loss, but because there's 2 mexes here, I think it's important to try to put something down on a map that's this open. Obviously, not all maps are this open. It's just like it's mainly a thing for Red Comets and CCR to put like a lot of turrets down. If the map was more choked up, like say, let's say that this was a mountain pass that you couldn't put units through, um, then I would want defenses like around here or back here. Like in this general location, I would want a little bit more LLTs, and then I'd want to defend this location and up here. So the idea here is you're trying to create like a front, um, that blocks your opponent from reaching your base and reaching your metal. And the bigger your front is, the more metal in it, the better it is for you because you're able to put mexes on there and put them on there safely. Let's resume. So there's a bit of a counterattack, or a bit of attack here. Calder picks off a couple of mexes here. I don't do a great job going back and recapping these because I'd rather prioritize the units, and at this time my energy's not great. Again, there's that other video if you want to look at the economy a little bit more closely. I try to apply some pressures and blitzes, but the main idea here is I have blitzes like to guard here and some to guard here. And then I have this guy here to do some raiding. And then I could also have another guy up here to do some raiding. Obviously, Cauldron has some units in this area. I'm trying to guard this con. Unfortunately, these units do not actually engage, so it's a little bit rough. There's now 3 blitzes here, so now it's hard for me to defend this con, and I lose it. And my blitzes are just trying to engage to punish or to at least kill off one of the aggressors. I send some more of my army up here to respond, and then I also send these guys out to raid, knowing that he probably has stuff up here. It's ideal to send, like you could just send 1, but like ideally you want to send at least 2, because that'll kill stuff a little bit quicker and it'll be harder for them to respond. I'm actually unsure if 2, like say these 2 had full health, I'm unsure if 2 full health blitzes would take out an LLT. But, like a 3rd one, if not, would also help, type of thing. Like the more you send, the better. But then that also lets you be, you're more vulnerable at the front then. So moving on, I'm just trying to apply some pressure here. On a map this wide, it's really good to apply a lot of pressure in different locations because there's just so much going on. It's easy for people to forget an LLT or not respond properly, and if they do respond properly, you're kind of taxing their APM and their ability to do other things. But it is also hard in bar because every time you send units out like this and lose them, that's going to be metal wrecks on their territory. Like I have a couple of wrecks on Calder's territory here. Calder has a couple of wrecks, or at least 1 here, and then some here from my stuff dying as well. But yeah, I'm just trying to apply some pressure, kill his cons off. A con pick off is very nice. It just makes it so that they need to send a whole nother con all the way up here just to get that mex again. I try to continue the raid knowing that there's units chasing me. I don't end up getting much done here. Meanwhile, my commander added on a little bit of power here. It also, these solar panels act as walls too. Like anything that tries to, say, kill this radar tower from this angle will first have to, they'll either have to go around these solar collectors or they'll have to kill the solar collectors first. So the positioning of these solar panels are very intentional. And I'm just trying to secure this area some more by putting down some more LLTs. You can see that there's a radar thing I queue up here too. I think I forgot that I already have a radar here, so don't mind that. And then my blitzers are just kind of like around to supports. They actually should be ideally more up here right now to like secure this area, threaten over here, and all that good stuff. But again, like, I'm a little bit vulnerable down this flank right now. And I'm a little bit vulnerable in this middle section. I do have units up here to protect the con building this stuff here. And yeah, I hope that's clear. Like what I'm doing and why I'm doing it type of thing. And things that I could have done better. I guess I can talk about this a little bit. When it comes to vehicles, like they can't just like, do a 180, turn around and move back. So ideally, when you move them around, they should be doing like circular motions because you want to have them just maintain their momentum as much as possible. And as they turn, they lose some momentum. So I'm just trying to do some harass while not lose my units. So I'm doing these circles and like getting them out of there right away, and it just makes it annoying for your opponent to respond to that. But yeah, so I moved my commander up to the front here. I took a path down this way. Normally I would consider going this way, but since I had a con grabbing these mexes pretty early on, I decided to go down here. The idea is you want to control the fronts with your commander. He's a big beefy unit that can build turrets. It's hard to kill him very early on. So it's a good idea to send him out, put some LLTs down to control space. The idea of the LLTs isn't just to like, stop his attack here. Like I see players, they get their commander to the front and they end up building, I should clear this. They end up building just like loads of LLTs in a confined space. And then the opponent sometimes, like if they're not very good either, they'll set up LLTs here. And it just becomes this like weird battle where it's like just this one contested location. But there's like all these other, ways to attack. So ideally what you want to do is instead of just placing them all in one confined location, you want to spread them out and use them to control locations, control areas. On a big open map like this, you're trying to basically create a wall of LLTs, along it, while trying to encircle your opponents. If that makes any sense. Because the more you're able to push into his territory and claim some for yourself, the better off you will be because you'll be able to safely claim a lot of mexes. So if I were to kind of draw the lines of control, like I basically control this right now. Or yeah, that's not even that good of a line. I basically control like that. So I already control the majority of the map right now. And that allows me to safely grab mexes. Now obviously, there are holes in this. I don't have units here. I don't have units here. And, the units that I do have are up here. But at the time, I know that he's raiding with most of his units. And I know that, like, as long as I defend, I can maybe defend this con a little bit better than I am. I do respawns. I do have some units coming in. And then I know that he has these units here. So I'm just trying to secure this a little bit better right now. But yeah, I'm just sending some raiding units around to put some pressure on and defend the stuff that he is attacking. These units of his could have done a little bit better job coming in here a little bit quicker, but vehicles are hard to control sometimes. He does slip through with quite a few, but I do have plenty of backup here to at least kill this group off. And then this group here, I think he picks up. Does he get this LT? I'm not sure. That would be a no. Got pretty close though. So here's my raid doing pretty well. And I do some pretty significant damage with this too. Just being able to pick off these mexes. And then even get this deep into his base is really nice. Let's see, what am I doing? Where's all my units? Okay, my units are just up here. Bit of mismanaged. They should actually be like along this area. And then I should also have a couple units down here to defend the flank. My commander's sitting idle. That's not ideal. Ideally, you would want to continue pushing LLTs up here. So since Cauldra basically is set up here, he has to defend this location because he has some investments in it. He has these solar collectors, right? So he should be placing more LLTs in this vicinity. But my whole goal with my LLT expansion is to try to push in this way. You know, because that basically will secure more of this area for me. I hope that makes sense. If it does not, please leave your questions down below or ask me directly. But yeah, here I'm just defending against some more raids. I'm adding on, you know, my mexes once again because they were taken out. And I'm also setting up some more LLTs to defend this location. Defend the location, add units on. So now, like because he's been doing so many raids down this avenue, I pretty much know that this is somewhat like open. So I attack down this avenue. You know, knowing that I took out these mexes here, I don't have to worry about them being capped quite yet. Like he could have them capped, but it'd be difficult for him to. But yeah, as you can see, I moved my commander forward to control more areas. So again, I'm trying to push this way with my commander and the LLTs because this encircles his position that he has to defend. But yeah, again, like, so these panels are exposed a bit. Like ideally, you wouldn't want this mini in the front just because if you lose this location, it's going to be disaster for you. I do have 4 of my own back here, but I mean, it's not nearly as big of an investment as, you know, these 8. So yeah, I could set up attacks this way, but knowing that there's, you know, this is like where he needs to be to defend. I know his commander's nearby, so I don't do that. I also know that there's like a higher chance of there's more LLTs like around here. Actually, I know that there aren't any like exactly right there, but I know that, you know, there should be more defense down here because of the panels. So I'm, you know, electing to go up top instead because it's going to be easier to breach, basically. My commander takes a little bit of damage here by mistake. I choose to degun this turret instead, so I don't have to worry about it. And then because I did that, you know, this turret here, or wherever it was, I think it was here actually. You know, it defended like this location, right? This whole space. So without that, you know, his defensive line is now like this. You know, so that gives me more opportunity to encircle him and make it difficult for him. So now he's adding on some more LLTs down here. If Cauldra, if you watch this, I would suggest trying to add these on a little bit sooner in this area and then trying to move on to prevent me from doing this up there. Or if you wanted to, you could try to push in this way with some units and then set up LLTs with your commander to, you know, deny me some space too. So yeah, if I draw the battle line now, it's basically a little bit more like this. Actually, it's a little bit more like that because I have units over here to threaten this way. But yeah, it's just like I'm controlling more stuff, so I'm able to get more metal, which means I have more units. I have 36 metal income. Cauldra only has 18. You know, and again, like he did lose some mexes. You know, all these mexes. Whoops. All these mexes were basically his before. Probably this one too. Yeah. So yeah, I hope all that makes sense. Again, just the idea is to you know, control more area. You know, it's that you want to push up and grab the mexes, but you also need to defend it, and LLTs are the way to defend it. Especially on this kind of map, because it's so open. Blitzes tend to be really good here, just because they can get around, do raids, defend against the raids, and all that. If you were to do like medium tanks here instead, like let's say Cauldra had medium tanks instead, he could defend the location that has the medium tanks a little bit better. But if units slip past the medium tanks, then you know, like there's nothing that's going to You know, if my blitzes slip past the medium tanks cannot catch up to the blitzes. You know, so that threatens his entire base, unless he has like a ton of LLTs to defend it or something like that. It also means that if they try to raid with medium tanks, like my blitzes can just pounce on it, you know, because they're slower and things like that. So, you know, definitely blitzes on this kind of map. If you're core, that would be the incisor instead of the medium tank. If you're doing bots instead, then it would be, you know, doing pawns and grunts instead of doing thugs and maces. You know, mostly because of the speed issue. Oh, and then to circle back to the defensive thing, LLTs do better against those light units. You know, they don't do as well against thugs or maces or medium tanks or any of that. So, you know, on this kind of map, it makes more sense to get more LLTs. If Caldra wanted to challenge my turret line, you know, he could definitely be building just a couple of shell shockers. Just be wary because the more shell shockers you build, or the more artillery you build, the less other units you'll have. And you know, light artillery are not good at killing any unit whatsoever. You know, because their attack, you know, goes high in the air and comes down, so that means, you know, the unit it's attacking can just move out of the way. So ideally, you only want them against the you know, static defenses. Caldra ends up, I totally missed it, I meant to capture this a little bit better, but Caldra basically had some units around here and some units down here, and I sent my units in this way, and so he was able to, like, you know, go in this way and surround my units very easily. Really nice pinch by him. Little micro maneuver. But yeah, I'm just trying to secure this area some more. This is probably a few too many LLTs at this location, just because there's the hill here that, you know, it's not like he's going to be attacking down this way, because he can't, right? So like it'd be weird for him to go down this way, you know. So it'd be, you know, so it's kind of like not good to have so many here. But I'm just trying to encircle his location to make it hard for his commander to do anything outside of it. It also allows me to come in this way, but again, these LLTs could have been placed like around here more and around here more. The other thing I'll note about this is the longer the game progresses, you know, the more units everyone's going to have, which means you might, like, if you're trying to hold a position without having units there, you're going to want extra LLTs. But yeah, I'm just trying to say that I don't need quite as many in this exact location. I could have been up here more. Or even, you know, put some up here as well. Now that my commander's damaged, I'm just trying to move him back a bit more. You know, since Calder pounced and it didn't work, I'm able to lay down some extra pressure. I should have extra units on him at this point because of that. I decide to pull back, even though I have more, just because, you know, I don't want to get surrounded and accidentally lose my lead here. But yeah, at this point, I have a unit here for this location. I mean, he has these couple of mexes, and that's my fault for not killing this off. But the battle lines are basically closing in on him. Like, it's basically a little bit more like this now, or even a little bit more like that. Or let me draw this better. I find it hard to draw with the mouse. But yeah, he only controls that now, basically. I mean, obviously, like, he has some stuff up here, but like, it should be very easy for me to kill that. And in fact, like, I could send more units just to control this area a little bit better too. But yeah, I mean, basically, the more area you control, the more metal you can have, the more metal that's, or the less metal that your opponent can have, and that should, if you spend your money properly, should propel you into a win. There's also plenty of times during this match that I might have had enough to just kill his commander. Um, while I would say that it's good to get the game knowledge of knowing how much you need to kill commander, like, and see how good like D-gun is and stuff. I don't really suggest pouncing on the commander. I would instead encourage you to, you know, find places where his units aren't and just take those out instead. And if you get into this position where, um, there isn't anything left to like easily kill, then you need to try another means. In this particular case, I just have a lot more blitzes than he has because I've been controlling a lot more of the map and having a lot more metal. And that just means I just run in there and crush him. So yeah, I think this video does a reasonable job of just going over like how to set up, your defensive line to make it hard for your opponent to come in there. Cauldron did add on a bunch of turrets down here to prevent me from coming through. I ended up adding on a couple beamers as well as the sentries. At this point, basically, like once your opponents, or once, the game goes on long enough, like this one's already at 15 minutes, it becomes easier and easier to build up enough units to smash through a position. So if you're trying to defend a location that's far away from where your army's going to be, I would suggest trying to put down more turrets. Um, like this location here doesn't really need turrets because that's my main route of attack right now. I could have placed more turrets like along here to secure it. That would also be a thing. But yeah, I mean that's basically it. You just need less turrets where your army's going to be. It's more that you want the turrets in places where your army isn't going to be, such as the bottom here. This area at first was fairly protected, but it's actually very weak at this point. Like 3 LLTs will not do much against a horde of blitzes. But again, like, at this point I smashed through, so it's not like Cauldron can do too much. And yeah, the game pretty much ends here. I think well, I mean, I can go over, well, yeah, I mean, I can go over some unit types for this map, but it's not like you're not going to see a lot of unit types here. You're going to mostly see incisors and maybe a couple of artillery or something like that. If the game goes long enough, you might see medium tanks. I think at this point, yeah, I'm actually adding on medium tanks and Janus. Just because I have some solid control. I would say gain the control first with incisors, and then use things like medium tanks. If this map was more choked up, and there was less routes around, and just not so open, then I would elect to go for medium tanks and Januses a lot sooner. Whistlers and other missile trucks are they don't do very good damage, but they're kind of like this all-around unit that has like good range. It shoots air units. It can do some harass against things from a distance, but again, like they don't really do much damage. They also have some good line of sight. Their LOS is 620, but ideally, if you're getting something just for the LOS, you'd get a scout, because the scout is significantly cheaper and has a little bit more LOS even. It's like it's not bad to mix in a couple scouts, just put them at position so you can see a little bit better, and that way things like artillery will be able to aim a bit better. Instead of seeing the radar dots and having some shots miss, it'll see the unit or see the tower and be able to pick it off a lot easier. Januses are great for, like, they have this like big one-time hits that does a lot of damage, but they take a long time to reload. They don't have the greatest, I mean, they have some range, but it's not like crazy or anything like that. But they're kind of nice to be able to shoot something and then fall back, reload, come in, come in again, shoots, fall back, reload, and that way you can just like do some massive damage to some units. And in some cases, if you have, say a couple of Januses, you can actually it might take like 3 Januses to shoot like a medium tank and then fall back. Um, but they are very weak while they're reloading, so they're not great outside of when they're shooting. Medium tanks are your good like bread and butter units. They're kind of like thugs and maces in a way. Like they're basically this like big damage unit. They can miss some shots. Um, as the vehicle version, they basically have more hit points, so they can do a lot of good stuff. And they can actually just like if you get like, I mean, say I had like 5 medium tanks here, I could actually just like run through here, kill all this, then kill this, and then keep going. Um, but yeah, again, on a map like this, you do want blitzes to control areas because it's so easy to do raids. Um, and when I say blitzes, I mean blitzes or incisors. If you're going core, instead of Januses, you have what are they called? Pounders. Pounders are different than Januses. They do some damage at shorter range, but their main thing is they have a bigger AoE. So they end up being rather good against bots that clump up too much, and they are slower, so they're a little bit better for defending, like a choke points instead of on a wide map like this. I would not really recommend pounders on a map like this unless uh, your opponent is going bots and has a tendency to clump them up. Um, in terms of bots, I mean, plasma bots are your bread and butter. You have pawns and grunts for doing as your fast, cheaper unit that can do raids and stuff. Um, but yeah, thugs and maces are better at controlling an area like the medium tank is. And then you got rocket bots, which are it's like in a way the artillery of the bunch. Like they're better against statics. They slightly outrange sentries, so things like fight command is really good because you can just like select your rocket bots, use the fight commands like somewhere like that, um, and they'll automatically like run into range of these sentries and shoot their rockets at them. And the sentries won't be able to shoot back because they have slightly more range than the sentries. Beamers and twin guards are a good counter to that because the beamers and twin guards, they don't have like you know, a huge amount of damage compared to the LLT, but they do have more range, and they'll be and, and they'll be able to attack those rocket bots because they have that extra range. HLTs, I wouldn't suggest on a map like this because it's a big investment to defend one location, whereas there's a lot of attack avenues. If the map is more choked up, or say like even if you're defending one or two like bigger chokes or something, then an HLT might be useful. Um, the HLT doesn't do like a ton of damage for its cost in metal, but it can hit stuff from a distance. Artillery has more range than the HLT though, so like there's still that problem. But they don't have enough vision to see it, so I guess it's kind of a depends on situation. If you go in there and able to see where the HLT is, then you can like use your artillery to manually fire at the position where the HLT is and stuff like that. Um, I guess that only comes into play if there's a jammer, actually, come to think of it. Because otherwise you'll see it on radar, right? And then your artillery can still shoot at it. Yeah, I think that covers it for bots and vehicles early game. Oh yeah, the Centurion. The Centurion is kind of like the Pounder. It's like it controls a location pretty well, but it's slower. It also costs 270 metal, which is a lot for a bot or for a T1 bot. Um, so I don't recommend them in most situations, but again, they can be useful to secure like a location or secure a flank spot. Um, like let's say this is mountain and this is mountain, and you got just this here. But say there's like a path that leads through here, type of thing. Um, say you start in this position, your enemy's coming through this way, and he's trying to raid with like pawns or something. Then if you have like a centurion or two just stationed here, it'll guard this rather well because it is a very narrow area, and centurions do quite well against things like pawns and grunts. I hope that makes sense. Obviously, most chokes are not that, that'd be a crazy small, narrow choke, but I hope you guys get the idea. I think that about covers it. I would say that during this game, there are some wreckages around here. Um, because my metal's quite high, or has been quite high, I didn't prioritize getting the wreckages, and because it's well within the well within my territory of influence. It's like well guarded by the LLT walls I have and units that I have out. So I don't mind the metal wrecks kind of sitting there. I can come back and reclaim them once I need the metal. And that's actually what I'm doing with these guys here. They're just kind of out here to reclaim now. Um, I'll talk a little bit about, I talked about this in my economy video, but I'll go over it again here. Um, Basically, ideally, you wouldn't have a second factory until you have plenty of build power on your first one. The reason being is a factory costs a lot of metal, and so you're kind of just like throwing that weight into a factory. The factory itself only has 100 build power, so it doesn't actually build things very quickly, and so you're spending a lot of metal on building units slowly. Whereas you could instead build con turrets and constructors to add on build power for far better cost or metal cost. Um, but the reason why you might want one before having a bunch of con turrets and stuff would be if you wanted res bots. On a map like this, it's possible to, you might want it just because there are situations where you can have a lot of metal. But ideally, if you have a lot of metal, then you want to be using it on units as much as possible. Units and getting energy and build power to get those units. At this point, since I do have a bunch of concerts, the next step for me would be to add another factory, and ideally it would be a bot factory, just for the sake of having some variety, and mostly because res bots are really, really good. Um, being able to come up here and resurrect some of these wrecks or easily reclaim it is quite nice. Coming up to the fronts to repair your army is quite nice. Like a lot of these blitzes are damaged. Obviously the game's ending here, but like if it wasn't, I could retreat back and repair these blitzes with my resbots pretty easily. And then they're also good for repairing the commander itself or towers that are damaged or whatever. Um, yeah, and then if you guys ever are in a situation where there's like one good choke you want to defend, um, especially if your vehicle, I would recommend getting a construction turret in the front, like once your economy is pretty well established, just so that it can repair the fronts, repair like attacks coming in. I mean, in a way, it's putting more investments into that location, um, but it's kind of like a defensive measure to help protect that location. And that's something that Calder could have done in this location just to like aid it. Um, but obviously, since there's so many LLTs, I decided to just go elsewhere. Because why? What better way to work around LLTs than to just avoid it and go elsewhere? Make it just not even importance that he has these. Um, I hope I covered that pretty well. There might be some things I missed. If there is, I might do a second video, but I hope that gives some clue as to how to do this, positionally speaking, and how to send guys out and stuff. I'll probably do another video on being aggressive versus defending, but yeah, just for now, I think this is probably enough for now because this video isn't, or this replay isn't as good for that. Um, but yeah, if you guys have questions or anything, let me know in the comments or let me know in person, like through Discord or whatever. Um, and I hope you guys learned something. Thank you.